Hello everyone, and welcome to Navigating Uncharted Waters Part 3. If you missed Parts 1 and 2, check out the videos we posted along with this one. Today, we are going to be talking about post-incident response, more specifically, how to respond and recover from a cybersecurity incident. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce myself to those of you who may be new. My name is Ally Pinheiro, and I am the Enterprise Risk, Security, and Compliance Professional for Critical Ops. I am a risk researcher and cybersecurity compliance officer. I manage our own cybersecurity efforts, and I conduct cybersecurity assessments for companies looking to be compliant with NIST and CMMC, or may just be wanting to strengthen their overall security posture. I want to start today off by providing you with the NIST definition of a cyber incident. A cyber incident is an occurrence that actually or potentially jeopardizes the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of an information system or the information the system processes, stores, or transmits, or that constitutes a violation of security policies, security procedures, or acceptable use policies. Let's focus on line 2 before we move on. Potentially jeopardizes. To consider an event a cyber incident, you do not need to have any confirmation that there was a violation of confidentiality, integrity, or availability. Let's break these three down. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability are the three pillars of cybersecurity. Confidentiality ensures that only the right people have access. An example of this is an employee falling for a phishing attack and giving an attacker their password. Integrity ensures that nothing has been maliciously or accidentally altered. An example of this is making sure that your bank is correctly depositing your checks. And availability ensures that you have access when you need it. Have you ever tried to reach a website but it's down for maintenance? That's a compromise of availability. To consider an event a cyber incident, you don't have to necessarily experience the loss of any of these pieces. Let's look at some examples. Any unusual behavior from a privileged account could mean that a person was able to gain access to an account that can make administrative changes. Another example is seeing traffic sent to and from unknown locations. This could mean an attacker is moving data from your servers to another location. Unauthorized insiders trying to access servers and data is a cyber incident. An employee may try to test their access to different systems to see if they can get their hands on something sensitive, which could lead to an inside attack. The loss or theft of equipment is another cyber incident. Even if a lost laptop is simply lost in the employee's home and they can't find it, it is still considered a security incident because it is unaccounted for. Sending PII, or personally identifiable information, and an unprotected attachment in an email is another cyber incident. An attacker may be monitoring your email traffic or conducting a man-in-the-middle attack and view that sensitive information. Missing a patch or an update in a software system is a cyber incident. Organizations that roll out updates to their software oftentimes patch security vulnerabilities that have been exposed by attackers. I know sometimes we just want to ignore patches because they are inconvenient or we don't want the changes, but we are putting ourselves and our organization at risk by not updating. Improperly disposing of equipment is also a cyber incident. Before throwing away, recycling, or donating a device, it must be properly sanitized. Sanitized in this case means deleting the data in a way that makes it unrecoverable. This goes further than just emptying the trash bin on your computer. System misconfiguration is considered a cyber incident. These can be simple mistakes in the system or just not being aware of security configurations that you can change. Phishing emails are also cyber incidents. We did our first webinar on phishing, so go back to that video if you want to review it. There are many more examples of cyber incidents, but I think we would be here all day if I went through them. So we will move on from here. However, if you're looking to expand your cyber incident response plan or start creating one, we do offer that through our cybersecurity maturity assessment. Again, you don't need proof of any of these to call something a cyber incident. It just needs to potentially jeopardize confidentiality, integrity, or availability. I want to dial back a little bit and talk about some of the preventative measures that you and your organization can take to avoid a cybersecurity incident. This list isn't exhaustive, but it's a good place to start. Prevention is going to be your best defense against cybersecurity incidents. Being proactive with cybersecurity will not only defend against common attack methods, but it may save your organization a lot of money in the long run. Organizations that show they take cybersecurity seriously in their organization are more likely to receive less fines should an incident occur. These aren't in any particular order, however, conducting a cybersecurity assessment is the best place to start. We always recommend outsourcing your cybersecurity assessments because we can create bias when reviewing our own practices. You may believe you are taking all the correct measures, but an outside pair of eyes can spot things you miss. We do offer a customized cybersecurity maturity assessment to suit your organization's size and scope, so please reach out to us at any time to receive that outside perspective. You also want to address the human element. Educating your employees on simple cyber hygiene practices is crucial. An annual training that covers insider threats, relevant industry laws, and phishing can be a great defense to your organization. Your organization is only as strong as your weakest component. With nearly all cybersecurity incidents beginning as a phishing attack, educating our employees is one of the most defensive strategies we can take. We also recommend testing your employees on their cyber hygiene, which we do offer as well. We recommend creating a cybersecurity culture within your organization, which goes right along with addressing the human element. While IT and cybersecurity professionals in your organization play a large role, every user has some level of responsibility when they could put your organization at risk. If you have an internal IT and cybersecurity department, it's very important to invest in the right tools. Work with them specifically on what they need to keep your organization secure. If you only have an IT department, consider providing them with training in cybersecurity practices. There are so many online programs and certifications that would better position your organization. Technology changes so fast, so continuing education is a must. The tools specifically need to be updated as well. Working with any legacy system will put your data at risk. Critical Ops has an entire software modernization plan to bring you out of those legacy systems and into a secure environment. We put security first. The principle of least privilege is also an important element. Your employees should only have access to what they need to do their job. Any other access could create a security vulnerability or incident. We also need to talk about backups. A backup is simply the practice of copying data from a primary to a secondary location to protect it in case of a disaster, accident, or malicious action. For many organizations, the data they have is everything. Losing your data can cause a massive business disruption and damage your organization financially. Every business, both large and small, should be backing up their data. Some things you may want to back up include documents, media, configuration files, machine images, your operating system, and much more. Any data that you want to preserve can be stored as a backup. In a study done by Gartner, the average cost of downtime to a business is about $5,600 per minute. In another study, only 6% of companies affected by a disaster that did not have a disaster recovery plan in place continued to operate 2 years after the disaster. That disaster recovery includes backups. The most common causes of data loss are hardware and system failures, human error, and viruses, such as ransomware. There are many different forms of backups that you can choose from. One popular form of backups is through removable media. That includes CDs, DVDs, USB flash drives, and more. These are a good option for smaller organizations that may not carry a lot of crucial data. These backups need to be securely stored and may benefit from being in a separate location altogether. If your organization experiences a fire, for example, having an off-site location with your data backups could be life-saving. Redundancy backups are another option. but they are a bit more difficult to manage. It's essentially making a replica of any system you need on an additional hard drive. These take a bit of time, but if you place a lot of value on your data, then it's worth it. An external hard drive is a very popular backup solution. A high-volume external hard drive will let you restore files very quickly, and it can be easy with an archive software. The main downside is that if you have a lot of data, you may need more than one. There are also backup appliances for large amounts of data. These come pre-integrated with software. Any system that requires a backup will also need the software. You can set a backup schedule and policy to make it a set it and forget it type of backup. These are best held in a remote site so that it is isolated from your network. Backup software is a bit complex, but has more flexibility than the backup appliances. You still need the equipment to go along with backup software. You can select which systems and data you would like to back up and select the backup device. These are good for managing and having control over your backup process. And lastly, we have cloud-based backup services. These are becoming more and more popular as we start migrating to the cloud. They are easy to use, and the data is already saved in a remote location for you. Data storage costs can be much higher if you have a lot of data, but their ease of use is worth it to a lot of organizations. Next, I want to talk about the recommended strategy for backups, which is called the 3-2-1 backup strategy. This backup strategy will help protect against accidental data loss and malicious data loss, such as ransomware. You first want to have 3 copies of your data. This would be your original data in 2 duplicates. Having 3 separate backups will ensure that you are protected in case one of your backups is corrupted or lost. Then you want to have 2 different storage types. So for example, you have your data on your network, but you want to keep a hard drive backup and a cloud backup. Next, one of these backups should be kept off-site. If there is a physical disaster, an off-site backup will be your saving grace. Additionally, when it's off your network, it prevents an attacker from tampering with it. We've been seeing more and more ransomware attacks that are also targeting the organization's backups. If these are kept off your network and off-site, the attacker will not know they exist and cannot get to them. There are some backup mistakes that you should be aware of. The first one is pretty self-explanatory. Not backing up is a mistake. Saving the backup copies in the same place as the original files is also a mistake. Storing them in the same place is essentially useless. If that fails, so does your backup. Testing your backups must be done regularly. If the backups are corrupted, you will need to redo the backup and see if there was a reason why it was corrupted. Sometimes this happens by chance, but there could be some configuration issues that will cause that with every backup. We recommend having a backup schedule to make sure you avoid the next mistake, which is not backing up often enough. Most organizations we work with do either nightly or weekly backups. These are typically done outside of work hours to not disturb any business operations. If any data is frequently changed, then you should back it up more often. Not labeling the backups is another big problem. You not only want to label it, but also keep a record of your backups as well. This will make it much easier to find should a disaster or incident occur. If you are using any external options, label them physically. Any cloud or network-based storage should be labeled with names as well. Lastly, having a backup plan is so important. It doesn't need to be extensive, but a written process will be very helpful for you during an incident. Many, if not all, of us would panic if we lost everything. Having a written set of procedures will not only help you remember what to do, but also prevent you from making any mistakes during the backup process. Disaster recovery goes hand in hand with backups. Typically, the disaster recovery is part of security planning and is included in business continuity plans. Disaster recovery is going to help you restore any hardware, application, and data failures to maintain your business operations. Generally, there are 3 types of disaster recovery. The first are preventative measures, which focus on the prevention of a cyber incident. The second is corrective, and that's a strategy that you put in place to recover your systems. And the third is detective measures. These are the discovery and detection methods you take to find cybersecurity incidents. When you have a disaster recovery plan, it's highly recommended that you review and test it annually. You can test it by running tabletop or red teaming exercises, which is something that we offer. Alongside a disaster recovery plan, a cybersecurity incident response plan will be your saving grace in the event of an incident. A cybersecurity incident response plan is a set of instructions to help an organization prepare for, detect, respond to, and recover from a cybersecurity incident. A typical cybersecurity incident response plan will cover multiple different attack methods, such as malware, data theft, and service outages. A cybersecurity incident response plan should include who should do what and when. This means having specific instructions in a checklist format for each role in your organization. This can include everyone from legal, public relations, HR, end users, and customer service. We are going to be talking about the different phases of incident response, all of which should be included in your incident response plan. These include prepare, detect, respond, recover, and follow up. In the first stage of incident response, you want to prepare yourself for building the plan. A good place to start is documenting all your IT assets, including your data, creating a network map of your infrastructure, and placing value on your assets. Prepare a list of each person that will have a role in incident response. Start to break them up by duties and when they get involved. At which point do you want to contact the authorities? When should you provide statements to the media? Next, identify any regulatory requirements that you need to comply with. If you work in healthcare, for example, do you have any specific requirements that you must follow? You also want to create a communication plan. I don't see this often, but I do recommend it. When an attacker is on your network, they could be monitoring your email traffic. Are you sending updates and solutions via email for the attacker to see? Having a second communication method that is off your network, like phone calls or text messages, will be very beneficial. Lastly, a great practice outside of incident response is documenting your security practices. This can be helpful in the analysis phase of incident response. Your detect phase will include your strategy for monitoring and alerting security events. Automatic scans with alerts are a great start, but we also recommend having a documentation structure in place for security incidents. Your documentation should include the details of security incidents, the severity and type of the incidents, forensic evidence, and any other identifying factors. One thing you should include in detection is also monitoring and researching threats in your industry. I encourage open communication between businesses about cybersecurity incidents and remediation strategies. Talk to your colleagues and do your own research on how cybersecurity threats are evolving. There are a lot of online security forums you can turn to when looking for ways to track your threats. At any time before, during, or after an incident, think about when you want to contact law enforcement. They will be able to help in all stages and provide you with some of the solutions you need. Your incident response plan should have contact information for any institute or agency you would ideally work with in these scenarios. Your first step in the incident response phase is going to be containment. You want to contain your systems, network, data, and devices to prevent the attack from spreading. This includes pulling the infected devices off your network. Determine if there have been any data leaks or any damage caused to your system. Document the incident like I mentioned earlier. You will want to include every response effort, including when you detected the incident and what you did to respond. It's good practice to also preserve the details of the breach for further analysis, kind of like preserving a crime scene. Also, consult your legal team about any compliance impacts. This will be important in the recovery phase. Following the response to the incident, you will enter the recover phase. This is when you can start mitigating the risks by patching your system. Create an identification or alert system to improve your security controls to prevent a similar attack in the future. Continue to document your network traffic for malicious access. This is usually done through a Security Information and Event Management, or SIEM, software. Next, perform a vulnerability analysis and cybersecurity assessment. A vulnerability analysis is a scan of your entire network that looks for holes in your system. A cybersecurity assessment will give you a full scope view of your controls and make recommendations that a vulnerability assessment may miss. Again, we do offer these and can help you with mitigation efforts at any point. Lastly, we have the follow-up phase. For documentation purposes, we recommend completing a report on the security incident to have all that information in one place. In this report, include your lessons learned to prevent any mistakes from occurring again. Review and update your cybersecurity incident response plan. You may find that a security incident didn't really align with the plan you had in place. Are there any updates to the plan that would smooth out any bumps? We recommend reviewing and testing your plan annually, whether incidents have occurred or not. I would like to provide you with a few more tips for incident response. First, I recommend assembling a team for any incident response preparation work. I recommend having a team with a legal representative, an IT or cybersecurity manager, an emergency manager, and operations managers that would be heavily impacted. If you have a board member should also be there. These different perspectives will help create a plan that suits the entire organization. Differentiate responses to various attack types. Not all attacks will result in the full incident response plan. For example, say a user falls for a phishing email and notifies IT right away. With a quick response, the threat may not spread and the malware can be removed immediately. However, an attack like ransomware could surely include the entire response. We also recommend creating a checklist wherever possible to help you through any panic during an incident. We recommend preparing public statements in advance for any incident, not just cybersecurity incidents. It's crucial to be consistent and cautious with public statements. A PR statement could calm fears, or it could cause more chaos for you. Having these prepared in advance will make response easier for you. And lastly, start today. This can feel very overwhelming, so break it into manageable chunks. The smallest progress is still progress. Critical Ops is always here to help you in the different phases of incident response and can provide a holistic cybersecurity maturity assessment that includes your response efforts. This is our last video in our Navigating Uncharted Waters series. Thank you all for coming. If you would like a free consultation, you can reach out to us through our website, www.criticalops.com, or through my email here. Thank you and have a great day.